This is Alexander Kristoff's Canyon CF SLX Disc. Oh yeah, you heard right, your eyes do not deceive you. This is Alexander Kristoff disc brake road bike. And yes, it has already been raced in anger. It's not just for show, even though, to my eyes at least, this is one of the prettiest bikes in the pro peloton. The Aeroad disc was released in August of last year, although we had actually, thanks to Alexander Kristoff, seen one or two spy shots on his own Instagram account, lifting the lid on not only the frame set, but also SRAM eTap HRD, and for that we do thank him still to this day. Back to the frame set though, the disc brake version is almost identical to the rim brake version. We gather that you have a slight penalty aerodynamically for running disc brakes by about 1 watt, so not a great deal at all. And in fact, you can get that watt back by removing the quick release handle on the front through axle. So interestingly enough, this bike has just one quick release through axle, and that's at the back, but you can take the handle off, stick it on the front one, and take your front wheel off. So not lightning fast, but like I say, you do get that 1 watt saving. And we did actually ask the mechanics what their plan is in the event of Kristoff getting a puncture on this bike, and they said that at the sharp end of a race, they just give them a new bike entirely. But if there's a little bit more time, the peloton's going slower, then they will change the wheel. Now, what about those wheels then? Well, they are Zipp's 454 NSWs. You can spot them a mile off because they have that characteristic bumpy, wavy profile. The idea being that it helps to increase the stability of the wheels, so you can run deeper wheels in much more turbulent conditions without getting worried about being buffeted from those side winds. And so they should be a much faster set of wheels for Kristoff's bike, but it took a while for the pro peloton to adopt them, and that's because they're only sold in a clincher version. But it doesn't take a genius to see that actually these are tubular tyres glued onto the rims, so we can therefore assume that these are special team issue 454 tubular versions. The tyres that are glued onto these wheels are Continental Competition ProLtd tubulars, and they're 25mm wide. Now, before we leave the wheels entirely, let's take a look at the disc rotors, shall we? So the UCI standard for disc rotors is 160mm in diameter. So that's what this bike's got. And the reason they've tried to implement a standard is so that if Alexander was to get a puncture and his team car wasn't anywhere nearby, then he could conceivably get a wheel from neutral service. But of course, he has to have the same size disc rotor as everyone else. So that is why your bike will probably come with 160mm rotors. What it might not have is the really rounded, smoothed off edge that this has got. And that is a new stipulation to allow racers to continue to use discs. And so whereas you have quite a square edge on the discs that you might buy from the shop, this is super, super smooth. And it's really, really noticeable actually. Now I've moved around to the back of the bike so I can get a little bit closer to the group set. It's got SRAM's eTap HRD group set on there, and that, you'll remember, is the wireless group set, so nothing coming out the back of this rear derailleur. And in actual fact, there's a nice little rubber bung placed in what would be the cable exit to the frame there. It is super smooth. Now the rear derailleur is actually a SRAM WiFli rear mech, so that means it's got a slightly longer cage, and therefore the mechanics can swap any size cassette into this bike up to a 32. So it's currently got an 1128 in there, but should there be a particularly brutal mountain stage, they can effortlessly swap to an 1132 with no further adjustments. Moving forward a little bit then, we've got SRAM Red Cranks. He uses pretty long now 175mm cranks, and he's got 3953 tooth chain rings on there. And don't forget as well, he's got a really neat Quark D0 power meter on there as well. Now, at the end of those cranks, we've got a set of Look Keo 2s on there. Now I asked the team mechanics why they didn't have Look's absolute top of the range pedals on there. They've got a slightly more budget version, and he said 2 reasons. Firstly, they felt that the spring was slightly more robust being metal to carbon fibre, so in the event of a crash they'll be less likely to be susceptible to any impact. Then also you can adjust the tension really easily, and I would imagine being a sprinter, Kristoff's probably got those cranked down pretty hard indeed. Now, one last point about the group set. I've noticed that Kristoff doesn't use the SRAM Blips, so those are the kind of satellite shifters that allow him to change gear from different positions on the bars. So you could attach them to the tops here, and you could therefore shift when climbing, or indeed as a sprinter, he might want them on the drops there so he can sprint more easily. But if I'm completely honest, although I'm not a World Tour sprinter, I've never felt the need to add blips on my SRAM eTap bike, and he doesn't either. Being an aero bike, this Canyon comes with its own proprietary one-piece handlebar and stem, and also its own seat post as well. The reason being that actually, particularly the handlebar and stem, has a huge impact on the overall aerodynamic performance of the bike. So conceivably, you could buy an aero frame and then stick a ridiculous stem on there and a non-aero handlebar, and you'd undo most of the good work that you just invested in. So therefore, he has this super aero looking one-piece number, and it's particularly massive as well. That's a 130mm stem on there, and it's absolutely slammed. We'll come back to just how big the drop from saddle to handlebar is in a moment, because we're going to turn our attention to the seat post here. It is a camtail design, so it's got this flat section at the back. As well as being aerodynamic, one of the main reasons for doing so is it actually improves the comfort of the seat post. So you can get quite a lot more compliance from there, which is pretty important really, let's face it, particularly if you're going to spend long days in the saddle, like at the Tour de France. And the saddle? Yes, of course. It's a Selle Italia SLR Team Edition, so carbon rails, and it's also got a cutout in the middle as well. Before I bust out the tape measure and the weighing scales, one last point to mention is the tax bottle cages. So a lot of aero bikes have 3 bottle bosses here, so you can choose which height you have your bottle cage at. The lower setting being the most aerodynamic setting, but Kristoff chooses to use a higher setting, so sacrificing a little bit in the way of aerodynamics, presumably to make it easier to get his water bottle out. Right then, the vital stats. Saddle height, 80 centimeters, pretty punchy. Pretty monster 61 centimeters reach as well. 15 centimeter saddle to bar drop. That's pretty punchy, because these frames are low and long at the best of times. That's quite an extreme position. Finally then, let's weigh it. Now, you'll have to forgive me because it's windy up here, so it's going to go ballistic. 7.835. Whew. So, not a featherweight, but super aero. We did ask the mechanics whether or not Alexander Kristoff was particular about the setup of his bike, and they said that actually no, he's pretty relaxed really. As long as everything works and is in the right place, he is a happy chap. So there's no weird or eccentric touches on here. Everything is just workhorse and very, very pro. Now make sure you let us know in the comment section down below exactly what you think about it. Like I said, this is probably one of my favorite looking bikes in the pro peloton. So do you agree with me? That's the question. Now make sure you subscribe to GCN if you're into pro bikes, or indeed any cycling content really. We've got loads on the channel and loads coming up, so make sure you click on the globe. It's completely free to do so. And then if you're after some more content from here at the Tour de France, we've got another pro bike for you just down there, or for a look inside the Katusha team truck, which is rammed full of Canyon Aeroads, SRAM eTap and Zipp wheels. Click just down there.